All right, everybody, welcome in. This is Eagles Talk. Rob Brinkman, PY, going on the birds. Per usual, parade hysteria, Super Bowl hysteria, dying down, back to business. The road to a repeat starts right here on Eagles Talk. Let's go.
You love the Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! You love the Philadelphia Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! Philadelphia!
All right, everybody, welcome in. A2D Radio, Monday nights. This is Eagles Talk, PY. Rob Brinkman in the house. Les Bellin will be shuffling in just a few minutes. Like I said in the open, it's officially business for this football team, at least from a front office standpoint. Who knows what the players are doing right now, but the road to a repeat, I consider it to start right here, right now, on A2D Radio, right here on Eagles Talk. Download us wherever you get your podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play. We are live from the Real Talk Studios, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. If you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn those notifications on. Don't miss a damn thing regarding your Philadelphia Eagles. Keep it locked right here on A2D Radio. Each and every Monday, we're brought to you by Baguio's Bread, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, home of the best stuffed breads, tomato pie, sandwiches, cutlets, meatballs. Mention A2D Radio. 10% off your in-store purchase. They are open on Sundays until 3 p.m. Like you said, get that 10% off. In-store only. Mention A2D Radio. PY, back to business. We got coaching stuff to talk about. We got other coaching stuff to talk about. We got players that need to be re-signed, new players that are going to be shuffled in. The Combine is this week. I believe it starts Thursday. So, we are on the road to a repeat. The big news in Eagle world is one, Kevin Patullo, passing game coordinator last season. He will replace Kellen Moore, who obviously is going to go be the head coach of the New Orleans Saints.
Dumbass.
Brings us to, hey, he's getting that head coach money. That's what they want. Then, quite frankly, he earned it. So his reward, he gets to go down to New Orleans.
Have fun with that negative $50 million cap space.
Nah, that's as long as his check clears, I think he'll be all right.
With their cap situation, it might be the only thing that does clear.
Brings us to our poll question. Poll question tonight. The Eagles were smart to hire in-house for the vacant OC position. PY, obviously, this is not an outside hire. They just, elevate Kevin Patullo from passing game coordinator to offensive coordinator. I assume he will still keep his associate head coach title, but
yes.
PY, was this smart? Is this where you wanted to see him to go with the offensive coordinator hire?
So, it's such a difficult question because, I understand the hire. I think we all kind of knew it was coming. It's not Brian Johnson. I think Nick actually pushed for this as opposed to the Brian Johnson hire. I don't think he liked the hire. My issues with it is I don't love in-season hires. I don't like in-season hires because you're basically just giving the guy the job. There's no real interview process. Nothing has been established. You're just this is the guy. In-house hires, they don't do anything for me. They never do. The last 3 in-house hires, nothing is Mike Rowe, Press Taylor, Brian Johnson.
Not a good track record.
No, not a good track record. Your last 3 outside the box hires. Frank Reich, Super Bowl championship. Shane Steichen, you went to the Super Bowl and you were you were a blown call from winning the Super Bowl. Kellen Moore, you won the Super Bowl. I understand. Kevin Patullo, he's not Brian Johnson. I understand that. he has a good working relationship with Nick Sirianni. Like Jalen, obviously he wasn't singing glowingly about him, but I'm like, that's just him. Like he's just like he does at this point, he doesn't give a shit because he knows this, even if it works out, he's not going to be here long term anyway. Like this is like his 6 millionth like offensive coordinator since 2016. Like it doesn't really matter to him. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't love in-house hires. I could eventually like get myself into this like position to where I'm like I could maybe buy into it if they had just interview the guy or two. Like if like nobody is hiring Patullo to be your offensive coordinator. It's not even March yet. Like I think they hired Brian Johnson. I looked this up on the 28th of February in 2023. We're on the 24th. We hired them last week?
I mean, Patullo, you mean?
Yeah,
really couple days ago, I think.
Yeah, like you're telling me we couldn't. I would have been fine with a BS interview. Like they could have interviewed Frank Reich and then hired Patullo immediately after, and I would have been like, okay, that's somebody who's not currently in the building. So maybe I could have bought myself into that. But did it look anywhere else? Like they just established that this is their guy. So like obviously he has to work out. If he doesn't work out, you can't say it's Jalen because every time you've gone out and you got him someone who with creative outlooks on the offense, it's worked out. And every time, even just not Jalen himself, every time you've hired from within, it's bit you in the butt because you wanted to play it safe. Like I don't love the hire. It's so I guess I disagree with the poll. I don't think it was smart because it's like companies like to brag about, oh, we hire from within. I said, because maybe it's because nobody else would take the job.
Well, I mean, that's not the case here. I'm sure there's lot of assistant.
But that's even
there's
crazier.
A lot of assistant coaches out there that wouldn't give their right nut to be the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles.
That pisses me off even more. Brinks, that pisses me off even more. This was like the sexiest hire in football coming off a Super Bowl, working with a top 5 quarterback, a top 5 passing wide receiver core, a top 5 tight end, and arguably the best running back in football and the best O-line in football. There should be like a line around the corner.
Well, I mean, what this hire does tell me is that Howie and Jeffrey have taken the handcuffs off Nick when it comes to, this hiring process. I mean, Howie and Jeffrey, they went out and they found Steichen and they found Jonathan Gannon, and it was successful and they moved on. Then I agree with you, like the Brian Johnson hire, that was not a Nick Sirianni hire. They seemed to clash. They didn't seem to mesh. And because they didn't mesh, I think it affected the quarterback.
Yep.
But, I mean, it's very rare where I'm going to just, sip the Kool-Aid. Like I always say on these airwaves that it's not my job to approve of Eagles, Sixers, Flyers, Phillies move just because I'm a fan. You can be critical and still be a fan. So I am going to give Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles the benefit of the doubt here. And I'm going to say it was smart for them to hire from within for the offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo. I mean, Les Bowen told us a couple weeks ago, it's kind of assumed around the league that this guy was going to be, the offensive coordinator if Kellen Moore were to accept the head coaching position. The other thing that, like, I'm not buying the fact that, they were played in the Super Bowl, so they were last at the litter bowl for all the good offensive minded guys that could have been the offensive coordinator. I'm not buying that. If they wanted to do a comprehensive search and find someone from outside to maybe make this passing attack more innovative, maybe not be at the bottom of the league all season in passing offense, They easily could have, but they just won the Super Bowl in dominating fashion on both sides of the football. Offense wasn't a question in the playoffs.
Nope.
Nor really was it a question. It was a question after the bye. I take that back. But the offense was fine in the playoffs. The defense was lights out. So that, accompanied with the Philadelphia Eagles and Howie and Nick and Jalen and the team leaders, have really, like, it's a culture thing here. Like, it's a vibe to be on the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, you have to play football a certain type of way to fit the mold of this team. So if you just want to take all the guesswork out of it and maintain that culture and maintain those relationships, that's a big reason why the Eagles were Super Bowl champions. You promote from within.
I'm waiting for
Kevin Patullo.
I'm waiting for the BS report that I can just, I feel it in my gut that's going to come out, that they're basically going to say, but because Kellen Moore was so busy with interviews and everything, that Kevin Patullo was the one really putting the offensive game plan together in the NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl. I can feel it dropping like any day now.
But nothing was different. They just executed a little better in the playoffs than they did in the regular season, at least on offense and from a passing perspective, especially in the Super Bowl. So I don't buy that at all. And I think that's super overblown that coaches are distracted from the interview process. Like, they're not flying anywhere. They're doing what we're doing right now. They're on the StreamYard, Zoom call, Microsoft, whatever call. And they're just talking for a couple hours about the position. So, I mean, you're right. One of these fanboy media guys that wants a story, someone in the Eagles probably will grab them and say, hey, put this out there for me. And that's what it's going to be. But, like, I am surprised that it seems like a majority of the people agree with you, which I thought people were going to be all jazzed up with the green goggles and sipping the Kool-Aid and just being, okay, they won the Super Bowl, let's just have this guy. I am surprised at that. I'm surprised I'm in the minority that I agree to this poll, that it was smart to hire from within. Let's get to some comments here. Brian Daly's in the house. Graham Blockovich's in the house. Michael Conroy, he agrees. Chris Kaufman, seems like they wanted to give Jalen some semi-continuity at offensive coordinator. I mean, maybe. Okay. Greg agrees to the poll. Michael Conroy, this means Sirianni says, I gave you 2 heads last year, and now I brought you a trophy. I get to pick my guy this time. That's exactly what it is, Michael. That's exactly what it is.
How can you not trust him? I 100% give him that. Like, you gave me the Brian Johnson BS, and we fell flat on our ass. And now you let me do what I needed to do, and I deserve this.
True. I mean, I still can't believe how much he matured in such a short period of time. Nick Sirianni, that is.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't know if someone got in his ear or he did like a self-evaluation, but seemed from Cleveland on, he was a different coach than he's been in his entire Eagles tenure.
I just think that having someone like Kellen Moore, someone who is experienced, allowed him to take more leadership of the team as a whole, to where he didn't have to nitpick. But Kellen Moore is a very creative, and he's very a detailed-oriented individual, to where he probably was able to spend more time doing what he does best as a CEO head coach and not over-critiquing everything in the offensive playroom.
You mean Nick?
Yeah.
Kellen?
Nick.
Okay. All right, here you covered the Birds for a bunch of years. Let's bring him in, Mr. Les Bowen for Bowen
on the Birds.
Hey, fellas. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing all right.
Everybody's doing great. Back to business. That's our
Why's got
hashtag.
the beard going again?
I know.
You're almost Sirianni-esque in your ability.
Sirianni-esque. Just wait till I shave the hair off.
Yeah, I'm like the unhinged, crazy Nick Sirianni. After I got a haircut, I shaved the beard, so we got it all covered here tonight. Les, I mean, you kind of told us like this was going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, we all knew it
a few weeks ago. I mean, it was news to me when Les said it. I didn't know it was going to be, kind of set in stone like this, and they didn't even interview anybody. So, I mean, Les hit it right on the money. Les, what do you think? Kevin Patullo, the Eagles were smart to hire in-house for the vacant OC position.
Well, there's no way to really know, but I'm going to say yes. You can't. The big thing is everybody always talks about the number of offensive coordinators Jalen Hurts has had since he was in high school. It's unfortunate that they are having to make a change again this year. But again, you want to minimize that change if you can. I don't think you want to bring in somebody with a whole new way of doing things. And you just won the Super Bowl. I mean, there's not any impetus for that, really. I think people thought that was what they were getting with Kellen Moore, and it didn't really turn out to be quite as sweeping a change. Do you remember back in training camp and before that in
95% new offense?
Yeah, new. Oh my God, this is so hard.
This is with Brian Johnson. You mean?
No, I meant when they hired Kellen, it was Jalen's words back in the spring were very like, oh, I've got to learn all this new stuff. And
Jalen's words are peculiar at times.
They are. They really are. Because if you look at what the offense turned out to be, it's not clear at all that it was very different. But, it's clear that I think the impetus here is, again, to keep things like they are, because you just won the Super Bowl. Kevin Patullo has been here all along with Nick Sirianni. It won't be a drastic change for anyone. The Brian Johnson thing was, used the same rationale, unfortunately. They had just gone to the Super Bowl and they promoted from within. I'm still not quite sure what happened there. On defense, I think I have a pretty good idea with Sean Desai. He just wasn't anywhere near ready to run something like that. And Howie Roseman didn't really get the defensive personnel to run an effective defense in 2023. Why Brian Johnson didn't work, I have no idea. I mean, I think the guy's pretty smart. He's down in Washington now, with a pretty good job. And, what the heck happened there, I don't know. But Patullo for right now, it certainly seems like the right move to make. I would not go out and try to reinvent the wheel. That said, I don't really know what possible alternatives there might have been. Maybe there is some genius out there, who was ready and willing to come to Philly, but they just didn't call him. But I have no way of knowing that. Patullo is the guy Nick wants, and Nick just won the Super Bowl. So, yeah.
So it sounds like we had Michael Conroy's comment here. This means Sirianni said, I gave you two head coaches last year, and now I brought you a trophy. I get to pick my guy this time. Because it seems like Nick Sirianni hasn't had much say in his coaching staff until now.
Yeah, I wouldn't say throughout the years he hasn't. I mean, I think he's brought a lot of people. I'm not sure there's anybody left who's ever worked with Nick in Indianapolis who hasn't worked for the Eagles.
Well, there is one guy.
Frank Wright. Yeah, that would be it.
He's next. You just know that's coming.
Yeah. He could certainly sign on as a senior consultant or something.
I think they maybe hire him as a QB coach.
Desai is doing this year. Sean Desai has changed teams again and is now going to be somebody's consultant, which basically means that he's not, nobody really sees him as a defensive coordinator.
I think the fact that back-to-back years after being in DC, he was a senior advisor in two straight places. I think that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't think it means he's an idiot, but he wasn't clearly he
Doesn't mean
wasn't
he's
able
not.
to do the things that the
He was
master was able to do this year.
a successful defensive coordinator in the past, though.
Who, Desai?
Yeah. Did he not coach the Bears and the Seahawks? Maybe not DC, but like he's been a part of some pretty good staff.
He was part of that. I think he was DC in Chicago for 1 year.
I think it was the double doink year.
Might be. I don't know. But, I just think as far as this decision goes, you have to kind of go along with their pick. And I don't know that it was just Sirianni. I didn't hear anything about, Roseman or Lurie wanting anybody else to do this.
I also just don't think there was anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless you were going to try to get Frank Reich to come in here, I don't see what else you would do at this point.
I think he's your QB coach by the start of the season. So
Frank, yeah,
because of his ties with Kevin Patullo has deep ties to him, and same with Nick.
Yeah, that's a very good thought. They haven't done that yet.
What is this fan base's infatuation with Frank Reich?
I mean,
well, he did a wonderful job under Doug Peterson. I enjoyed his press conferences. I thought he was certainly a lot better than Kellen Moore to talk to. I thought he was an honest, decent guy. He started out in Indianapolis. He had a great first year, and then they ran out of Phillip Rivers, and after that, things didn't go so well. I think he's been around forever.
Yeah.
I think he's won some games as a coach.
He's a smart senior guy who's going to be able to help you. Like he was head everything that
Carolina. You can be head coach in a place where it's impossible to win. Frank had, things went bad in Indianapolis. I think most people would agree right now that the ownership and management there isn't very good.
Yep.
Things were never good in Carolina.
No.
I think most people understand that situation pretty well now. I don't think any of that reflects terribly on Frank.
Yeah.
Certainly if you're talking about him as a quarterback's coach. Now, we're not talking about a head coach, I certainly think Frank Reich can coach quarterbacks.
I think this comment by Brian Daly, our good friend from the Hockey Happy Hour, this sums up my I think I agree, but like PY
we don't know.
said,
who the hell knows about Kevin Patullo? I don't. I mean, what do we know about him? He looks a lot like Nick. That's about the only thing I know about him.
Well, I mean, PY outlined. The last couple in-house promotions for this organization, not been so good.
No. Although they have had non-coordinator positions, they've also moved people around and done things that have worked out. Jeremiah Washburn is a guy that's moved around in this organization and done a very good job, I think. It's not like everybody the coordinator things haven't been great. What do you think about Nussmeier? Do you think that makes any kind of difference, you guys?
No.
Yeah.
So Doug Nussmeier, he was the Eagles quarterback coach last year, for those who don't know. He was poached by Kellen Moore to be the offensive coordinator in that new look New Orleans Saints coaching tree. They're going to find a quarterback's coach. Maybe it'll be Frank Reich. Whatever. I
thought Alex Van Pelt was an interesting option because he worked with Aaron Rodgers. He worked with Baker Mayfield. That was interesting concept. I don't really know anyone else who's out there.
Yeah. But with Nussmeier, it's going to be real interesting. He's down in New Orleans now, and his son is still going to be at LSU next year, right?
Yep.
So, he'll be right. That's a beautiful situation. Might be why he took the job, frankly.
They're going to need a quarterback, and I have one or two that might be available.
Yeah. But just being able to see his son every week, 45 minutes away. It doesn't get any better than that if you have a kid playing major college football, I would guess.
Brian Dale, I just want to see Jalen get an offensive coordinator for more than 1 year.
I think he does too. I think Jalen would agree with you on that one.
Well, I mean,
that's also.
Go ahead, Pete.
That's why I wanted to get. I said this in a group chat with him. I said I want an offensive Vic Fangio. I want a guy who's older, who's not going anywhere, who has no more desires to be a head coach.
Maybe Reich would have been that guy. I don't know. I don't know what Frank's ambitions are at this point, but
I mean, that's the problem. If you hire a young, capable coach, or what you think is a young, capable coach, and you have the success that this organization has had, like, you're gonna lose them.
Yeah.
Look at the
Lions. I hate to say it, but
outside of Dan Campbell in Detroit, like they're right. Starting from scratch.
This sort of underlines the brilliance of Belichick and Brady all those years. Think of all the assistants that left there to become head coaches over the years.
Yep.
Guys left and came back after getting fired as head coaches other places. They just
some people came back like 6 times.
Yeah. They just kept rolling along, through all of that. And that's, I guess that's what you have to emulate. You can't let this, kill your momentum, kill your vibe.
Nope.
Get some more comments here from the people. Another one from Michael Conroy. Sorry, I can't do 2.
Combustible. I don't see them as combustible.
No.
I'll get back.
I just can't. I was reading something Jeff McClain did in the Inquirer where he was doing the thumb up, thumb down.
Yeah, I know where my thumb can go to Mr. McClain.
Well, I have nothing against Jeff these days, but he was acting like, well, they might be able to bring Milt Williams back, but Bond, they're just not going to invest that kind of. What universe am I living in that I just think there's no way you can let this guy leave?
In what world is 25-year-old Milton Williams, who had like the game of his life in the Super Bowl, going to get more money than the 29-year-old linebacker who's had one good year?
Yeah.
Well, that's the issue. Like,
but I would much rather try to replace Milton Williams than I would try to replace Zach Bond with Nakobe Dean on the shelf for at least half of next season. I think that's insane. I just can't get my mind around it.
Especially
but Jeff covers the team. Jeff's there every day. And one thing he said something about how much of it was Fangio's system. I don't know. To me, when I see the guy lay out for an interception in the Super Bowl, I'm not really thinking too much about Fangio's system. But maybe that's it. Maybe they think that they can just bring in somebody and he'll be Zach Bond. I can't.
Yeah, I don't.
To me, it's the best linebacking I've seen in the time that I've closely followed the Eagles, and I just can't imagine. Saying that they don't value the position, that's a pre-Fangio construct. That I don't think that's the case. It shouldn't be the case because I think Fangio values the position very, very, very much.
Like, I understand that, like, Bond came out of nowhere, but it wasn't like they just randomly picked him off the street. Fangio wanted him.
Right.
Like, Fangio convinced Howie and Jeffrey to convert him to outside linebacker because he saw something in them. And I'm sure he would tell you, and Howie would be like, I didn't see this coming. Fangio probably was like, oh, yeah, I saw this.
Right. Well, I was down in New Orleans that week for the Super Bowl. And one thing that was interesting to me is, all the New Orleans reporters obviously were there, and they all wanted to talk to Zach Bond every day about why it didn't work with the Saints, the position change. And Zach said something really interesting. He was like, don't blame the Saints for this. I wasn't really ready. I didn't really know the things I know now. I needed, more time. He kind of implied that he wasn't mature, even though he was out of position, I would say. But he was a third round pick. It's like you said, it's not like he was somebody they brought in off the street. He was a guy who had a hell of a college career and was well regarded when he was drafted. And it just took a while to get this all sorted out. But Martian, I'm glad you brought this up because I just can't imagine. Rob, can you imagine? I mean, how would they do this?
He would be my number one priority. I would like to see some. I mean, this is a team that hasn't had any continuity at the linebacker position since Jeremiah Trotter.
And you can start a lot of the down years by the years that they've had really bad linebacking.
It's true.
The year that Alex Singleton was their best linebacker, and God bless Alex, he's a great guy. He's a man of the year type dude, but he's not a great starting NFL linebacker. Every few years they fall into this trap of thinking they can just sort of manufacture linebackers.
And the two years they were good.
Yeah,
they had 2017. The Bradham, he was
serviceable. Bradham, Hicks. Even though Hicks got hurt, and then Kendricks came in and Kendricks had been a good player and had kind of fallen off. He came in toward the end of that season and played his butt off, and then 2022 they had what's his name who went to Chicago, and
they had TJ Edwards and Jonathan Gannon brought in. His guy was Kazir White, who took to Arizona with them.
Right. Yeah.
And they were serviceable linebackers.
And the next year it was a disaster and the team didn't do as well. I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to me to see this, what they do and how hard it really is to sign Zach Bond.
Well, I think it is going to take a pretty heavy bag.
Yeah.
I think that's where Jeff McClain, I mean, I'm not going to speak for Jeff. I don't know him, never talked to him. I read his stuff, and sometimes I really like it.
I shouldn't have just made this about Jeff. There are a lot of people saying this. This is part of the
that has been the norm, though. To their defense, that has been the norm.
But I really don't think
they can just plug and play at linebacker.
I think again the Fangio era is different. It's not like when Bill Davis was coaching the defense. I think the priorities have to be different with Vic Fangio. I think he wants good linebacking.
We get a quarterback question for Les. Tanner McKee most likely to get interest from the New Orleans Saints. I think Taylor won a chance to become a starter.
I know people are really excited about him and he has a good arm. I don't know that he's anywhere close to being a starter. I need to see a lot more before I mean, if I were New Orleans, I'd be interested in him and about half a dozen other guys. And
I would be interested in anyone that's not Derek Carr if I'm New Orleans.
Yeah,
you know what Derek Carr is.
Right. What is somebody going to give you for Tanner McKee versus what is he worth to the Eagles? I mean, I think he's worth some. I mean, I like having him here. I might be more inclined to try to peddle Pickett and keep Tanner McKee myself, but we'll see what they do. But Jonathan raises an interesting question. When you have your offensive coordinator and your quarterbacks coach go to another team, will they be interested in bringing a quarterback from Philly to New Orleans? And that's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Let's see some other comments here. I think Vaughn can be signed for $20 million
a year. Yes,
that's a
$20 million would be record breaking. I believe
that's Myles Garrett. That's Myles Garrett money,
right? I would say like $13 million a year for 3-year contract. But the big deal is going to be the guarantee. You can pull out any number you want, but how much of it is going to be guaranteed at signing? Not guaranteed if he's on the roster 4 years from now or any of that crap, but guaranteed at signing. That's the money. That's the real money. And maybe $20 million guarantee on a 3-year deal. But I would think it'd be more than that.
Like, I'm with you, Les. I can't imagine them turning their noses up because, they don't value the position.
Yeah.
All right. So here, Pro Football Focus, known for accurate contract projections. Don't know if that's true or not. That Bond could command a lucrative 3-year deal worth $40 million with a significant portion guaranteed.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. 13, 14 million a year,
which is
20, 25 million guaranteed, something like that. That would, I would pay him that. It's not my salary cap, but I would.
It's not my money. It's not my salary cap, which is I say that until I'm blue in the face on this on these airwaves as well, especially when it comes to sports like baseball where there's no salary cap. But I mean, that's cheap. That's cheap. I mean, this guy was a finalist.
I don't think Bond's going to command the money people think he is.
I don't know. I have no idea, but
why do you,
I know the cap
is
going up. The cap is going up 20 million, which is significantly more than it was projected to go up. So I just don't see that you couldn't do this if you want, unless they're going to try to get Myles Garrett or something.
Yeah,
that might change the equation. But otherwise, sign Zach Bond.
Isn't that cheap? Like, is that all pro? Like finalist for Defensive Player of the Year.
I get it, but like. He's had 1 year, like one.
Oh, yeah, that'll be it's almost a Hassan Reddick. I said this before. Yeah, it's almost a Hassan
29,
situation.
Has had 1 real year of success. And at least with Reddick, you could look at 3 years of him getting double-digit sacks.
Right. Obviously, he's been playing the position for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, just you could look at that and be like, maybe it's a fluke. Like, I don't think Zach Bond is going to command the money that people think he is.
It's fascinating. It's something we could probably argue about all night. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Another personnel question from Chris Kaufman. Is Becton gone, or will he take a significant discount to stay here?
He's literally hanging out with Trevor Booker and Nakobe Dean in Vegas as we speak. Like, this does not sound like a guy who's gone. Like,
nobody's gone right now. It's still February, but
I know.
But Trevor Booker.
If I'm the Eagles,
Thomas Booker. I'm sorry.
That's okay. If I'm the Eagles, he's not a huge priority for me because you drafted Tyler Steen to play that position, and you've got a draft coming up this year. I mean, I would certainly love to have Becton back, but was he so amazing that I couldn't possibly live without him? No. Especially since the guy that came in did just fine, I thought,
I think he takes a hometown discount.
I don't know about a hometown.
I think
you don't see that very often. It doesn't happen.
I know, but like I think we completely revitalized his career. I think he really buys into Jeff Stoutland, and I think he really believes what he was able to do for him. And like you saw him, like when just winning the NFC East, the dude was blubbering because he's just like, I went from the bottom of the abyss, and I dug myself out to be a champion. Like if that were me, I'd be like, what do I have to do to keep this coming? Like, I want more of that. Like, I can get paid, or I can take a little bit less and continue building the foundation I'm building here with my guys.
Right.
Because you can just tell, like, he loves it here and he loves the guys.
But sometimes when you've got a bunch of free agents, what sometimes happens is the Eagles, there's some guys that they just like, they don't really make an offer to, I mean, that happens.
I'd be shocked if he's one of those guys.
Yeah. I guess
I don't know. I can see if I were Mekhi Becton, I would harness that somehow.
Yeah.
And use what Jeff Stoutland told me and go get the fattest, biggest bag I could.
Yeah, right.
If Rob Franklin was ever a free agent, I would never take a hometown discount.
Well, one problem with the whole hometown discount thing over the years that I've found is all these guys have agents. the agent's reputation is tied to how much money he gets for his client. And he's always trying to recruit more clients. And if you have Joe and Joe takes $10 million less than he's worth to play for a team, every other agent who's competing with you will hold that contract up and say, look, this guy only got Joe, that's such and such. What the hell kind of agent?
Is Saquon Barkley's agent bad?
Well, I don't think Saquon took less money to come here than somewhere else.
Other places were offering him more, if I recall correctly.
I don't recall that, but he did want to win. I don't recall him having that huge a market, really.
If you want to take a hometown discount, whatever, that's on you. I think you're an idiot if you do. And I don't recall that about Saquon Barkley either. And another point to your left is he owes it to his brothers in the league, in the trenches, to get as much as he can. Because if you say he's the 5th best guard, he takes a pay cut to stay here. Guards 6 through 10.
Yeah.
Mackay, what are you doing?
Exactly right. Yeah. I agree, Rob. That is the case. So we'll see how it all works out. Maybe they'll bring them all back. I don't know, but
fantastic. What is money?
If I were prioritizing, I would have Zach Bond 1, Milt 2, Becton 3, and probably Josh Sweat 4. And I would be happy to have all 4 of them if that could be worked out, but I wouldn't expect to have more than 1 or 2.
Like Milt Williams is gone. Like he's just going to command too much. I think Josh Sweat is going to command too much as well. I think Becton just makes a lot of sense. I think he's willing to take a little bit less to come back.
Where do you guys think the line is between like bringing everybody back as opposed to like letting some of these guys go and bringing in fresh, hungry faces? Because the early 2000 Patriots, they were notorious for this. They brought in Rodney Harrison, who lost all the time in San Diego. They brought in Corey Dillon, who busted the Eagles up in 2004. He was in Cincinnati, losing. And the list goes on and on and on. They kind of just had their
and they let guys leave.
Their Brady's, and they let guys leave. They cut Ty Law like a day before the season the one year, and they still won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, like, where do you think that line is?
Well, I think Howie learned a very don't touch the hot stove lesson after the Super Bowl in 2017. He tried to do that, and it was a disaster. This is a different setup a little bit. There aren't as many older players.
Nope.
But what he does have is a lot of guys who are going to need extensions very soon. And he kind of has to go into this offseason looking at that and the salary cap room for that. He can't, get all emotional about bringing back Josh Sweat and then let Cam Jurgens leaving free agency in another year. No, that won't work. So, I think he's going to be pretty – I think he's going to bet – I think Howie bets on himself these days, and I think, I think they will let some of these – I can't – like I said, I can't imagine more than 1 or 2 of them is here next year. But it'd be fine with me if they are.
Last personnel thing to get into, the internet, the message boards, Twitter, X, whatever it's called. They seem to think the Eagles are going to take a run at former, I think it went number 2 overall, edge rusher Chase Young to kind of
be fine with that.
Come in. I'm with
nice rotation, nice rotational beats.
When he first left Washington, you could take the he wasn't everything Washington thought he was going to be, but maybe in a different setting with different coaches. Well, he went somewhere else and he was the same guy. At what point?
San Francisco. He got traded to San Francisco.
Yeah,
I
and
correct?
was he great for San
The best
Francisco?
situation in the whole league at the time.
He had 5.5 sacks last year.
I don't know. I've talked to. Well, yeah, that's 5.5. Yeah,
as a rotational guy, like I'd be fine with that.
If on a real minimal contract, I guess. But I talked to somebody when he was traded the first, or when he left, whatever happened when he went to San Francisco. I was talking to somebody who said, we just misevaluated that guy. It wasn't somebody from Washington. It was somebody else in the league. He said, he was on a great team at Ohio State, and he's really not that good. And that's kind of my feeling about him. I wouldn't be excited about that if they wanted to plug him in, for some snaps, but I wouldn't want him to start certainly here at all.
Last order of business with you. NFL scouting combine.
Yeah.
This week, I'm sure you've been to Indianapolis and that scouting combine a number of times. Tell the fans, especially a fan like me, who thinks the combine is a bunch of BS.
It is a bunch of BS.
Because guys like Chase Young go there in their underwear and show out. They get picked number 2 overall, and like you just outlined, they're not really that good of football players. So how can we observe the combine?
Just don't
educated view.
Pay attention to if there are guys that don't show up that are supposed to be there. That's happened a few times. If there are guys that show up 40 pounds overweight or something, that's usually not a good sign.
Unless you're Jalen Carter.
Well, Jalen Carter is the exception to that. But every other time I've seen something like that, it's been a real red flag for the player.
Like that Abdul Carter, total red flag, should not take him until 32.
Oh, you're being facetious. Okay, yeah. No, he's not going to go to 32. It's a lot of those drills don't mean much of anything, and it's kind of outlived its. From a scouting standpoint, when this started in the 1980s, it was extremely valuable because scouting staffs were smaller. There wasn't video, it was legit how you've evaluated these guys. And everybody knows the big stories about guys who were combine, the Eagles drafted one, combine legends. But it's
about as useful as Nick Sirianni doing rock, paper, scissors. I feel like I could gain more from Nick Sirianni doing a game of rock, paper, scissors than a bunch of dudes playing.
But what has happened over the years as the importance of the event to NFL teams has declined because you have video and you have larger scouting staffs and you have all-star games and you have, all kinds of ways to evaluate these guys, pro days, so on and so forth. The league, though, wants to make every off-season thing a huge event for TV. So the combine has become this gigantic dog and pony show. It's less important to the teams, but more important to the league than it was 20 years ago.
Gotta love those top 30 visits.
See, there's my, so you get the interview, is it 30? I don't even know how many it is, but you get 30 one-on-one interviews for 15 minutes with.
And even that isn't, you've already had chances to talk to these guys, and then you can bring them into your facility if you're really that interested, But the stuff at the combine is, what the biggest thing is, and I don't think I'm saying anything you guys don't already know. The biggest thing is the medicals. Yep. If you have a bad shoulder, let's say, they do their own MRIs and their own CT scans and all that, and your team doctor can look at the results and say, boy, we had a guy with this, and they say it's no big deal, but you remember this guy only played a year, and then, and teams really pay attention to that. Because if they tell you this guy's knee is only going to last 3 years or something, teams are like, yeah, I don't care if he's great. Even
Look
if
at
he
the guy
gives
in the
you
Steelers they drafted last year, the linebacker.
Guys drop rounds because of the medical. Ajayi was a guy that dropped way down in the draft because it was apparent that his knee wasn't going to have a long career. The Eagles had a running back. Tape. Yeah, before that, and I've forgotten the guy's name. Same deal. He went into the combine and they said, "Look, this guy's shoulder is only going to, it's not going to be a long-term thing." And teams are not. They don't want to pay people who can't play. Even if you're good, if you're not healthy, that nobody wants to inherit that. And so that's the biggest thing is the medical.
Do you think it's important? Do you think the weigh-ins and the measurements are important? Because SIDs lie all the time to get their guys looking.
But they already do that. If you've been to, well, for the underclassmen it is. But if you went to the Senior Bowl or the Shrine, you've already been weighed and measured.
You already did that. Okay.
In fact, in Mobile, it's kind of uncomfortable given the history of Mobile and Alabama to see these guys up there on the stage, with somebody calling out their height and weight and asking them to turn around and stuff. It brings up some unpleasant. Deuce Staley and I talked about that one time, by the way.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's. But yeah, you do need to know that, and there's some funny stories. There's that that linebacker Tyler Matakevich from Temple, who's been in the league for a number of years, mostly a special teams guy. He was giddy at the Senior Bowl. He had been like hanging upside down by his heels for months because he wanted to be 6 feet tall. If he wasn't 6 feet tall, he didn't think he would get drafted. So if he was 5'11" and a half, that was no good. He had to be 6 feet tall, and he measured 6 feet tall, and he got drafted. So, is that weird? Yeah, it's weird. But as far as the combine itself, it's a dog and pony show. It's for the TV world. It's for NFL Network programming.
Yeah. The only thing I care about, I want to know who looks good in the Senior Bowl, and I want to see who my top 30 visits are.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that the Eagles need to pay attention to, and they usually do, is those top 30 visits matter because one of those guys is your first round pick every time.
And they also, what Big Dom does matters. Big Dom goes to these college campuses, talks to bartenders, talks to residence advisors at dorms. Coaches are going to tell you, "Oh, so-and-so is a great guy." But
finds out who went to Bo Callahan's birthday party.
If somebody is a train wreck, there's somebody on campus that will definitely tell you that. If they're covering up stuff that this guy's done, and if he's, wandering the streets at 4 a.m, getting into trouble all the time, you can find that out. And that's what Dom does basically. What kind of person are we drafting here? Because agents coach these guys through these interviews. They can all sound like, you want to hire them for your company right now. Yes, I'm a go-getter, self-starter. They all know the talk, but the people that know them know what's underneath that.
Yep.
How much can I read into who they talk to at the combine?
Not much. I mean, who they bring in to know
this thing really. I'm trying to give like a guide. Like
it means something. It means something. It means something. But it doesn't mean a lot. I mean, you talk to everybody eventually.
You
cover your ass, and if you don't cover your ass, you end up paying for it. Like the year that they ended up drafting Andre Dillard, and they hadn't really, other than a phone call with Jeff Stoutland, they hadn't done anything on Andre Dillard.
Yeah, he was viewed as a top 10 pick that fell to them. And they're just like, oh my God, we got. It's literally like the movie Draft Day where they're like, oh my God, we didn't have anything on this guy. What do we do?
Right. And it turns out there's a good reason why he didn't end up being a top 10 pick.
Lincoln Kennedy, he was doing a podcast with Anthony Gargano. I think it was Anthony Gargano. And he was obviously great offensive tackle for the Raiders for all those years.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And he said Andre Dillard wasn't it. And then the Eagles went and picked him, and I was just like, oh boy. Well, anyway,
I think I told you the story, my story about Andre, right? And his high school coaches.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Rookie year training camp. Andre looks, first couple drills, he's quick, he's graceful. Everybody's saying, oh yeah, this is pretty much what we thought. And his high school coaches come to visit, and I managed to get a word with them. And the high school coach tells me this, at the time, funny story about how Andre was a basketball player, and they had to talk him into playing football. And he went out for football, and he was clearly one of the best players on the field. And he was a freshman. And so they told him, hey, you're going to be on the varsity. And he was like, oh my God, good Lord. And they had to basically, to reassure him, they had this elaborate ceremony where the seniors presented him with his jersey and convincing him that he was good enough to be on the varsity.
So
at the time, it was like, ha, 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 isn't this great? Now the guy's a first-round draft pick. But after he struggled, I thought about that story a lot more and what it really said. This is a guy who didn't see himself as a great player, wasn't really that fired up about it, was kind of doing this just because his body wasn't going to let him be an NBA star, and you get that a lot. There are a lot of guys out there that are good college players and are only doing this because somebody said, look, you're not going to the NBA at 6'3", 300. You need to play football.
Mike Evans.
Yeah. So and no confidence, no dog.
Yeah, no dog.
What's that tell? Yes. Yeah. Well, Les, we appreciate it. Anything you're working on? It's been great
talking to you.
Anything you're working on? Anything you want to plug?
I've been off. I had a birthday last week. Went down to North Carolina, visited one of my sons, and
you're going all over the place.
Yeah. So I'm not doing a darn thing, but I will be writing during the combine, I'm sure, for PHLY. I'll figure out something.
I'm going to need all those measurables, all those 40 times in shorts.
I love all those terms. I love all the terms that get thrown around. Like, oh man, he's getting great arm talent.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean?
Who knows? It's just such a. These
best
drills
throw we've ever seen at the combine in shorts.
Great.
Well, they'll tell you that so and so just set the record for most reps on the bench press. The key with every one of those is to look at who held the record. Yes. And if it's somebody you never heard of,
it's not a good record.
What does it mean?
I still remember people losing their ever-loving mind because they watched Malik Willis in shorts, and they're just like, you see this right here? This is why we have to draft him in the first round, and we get rid of Jalen Hurts. And I'm just like, no.
Yeah. No. Yeah, but anyway, thank you guys. This was great. Good to talk to you.
Thank you, Les. Enjoy your retirement. Sounds like I don't need to give you any advice on how to enjoy retirement. Sounds like you're doing a fine job on your own. But
the busiest retired guy I've ever seen in my life.
I sometimes
catch you on the flip side.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Les. There it is. Bowen on the birds.
Go birds.
PY, that hour flew by.
Yeah, right.
Closing thoughts. What do you want to see from the offseason? What do you expect from the offseason? Because, like I said at the top of the show, like the road to a repeat, I anointed it as it's starting right now on A2D Radio, 9:00 on Monday, February 24th.
Yeah, the road to the repeat begins with a guy in Cleveland. His name is Myles Garrett. Go get him.
Whatever they want.
Whatever they want. Or not whatever what they want. They're like, throw some picks, give them a quarterback, throw Bryce Huff behind in there, do what you got to do. Like,
I would even be willing, PY. I would discuss players. I would take some of these depth pieces in the secondary that are young and dangle them out there.
Sure.
You know, Keely Ringo, Sidney Brown, Reed Blankenship. Like,
Whoa. You had me until you went with Ghost, all right? What are we doing here?
Yeah, I'd rather have Myles Garrett. You can't just, give him like a list. Like, take Keely Ringo and either Brown or
Tanner McKee, Bryce Huff, multiple first-round picks, maybe a second in there, If they want to give me some guy with a bad contract, I'll take him too, whatever, just to help him out.
Massage Boy. Take Massage Boy.
No.
I couldn't agree more. I would be, the number one.
Even if you don't get him, like you're in the need of a number one corner because you're going to get, or number two, Denzel Ward. He's going to be available.
I think you can look at the Jets as well. Seems like they're going through.
Yep.
You're
telling me my two corners are Quinyon Mitchell and Denzel Ward for the next few years? I'm a happy camper.
Maybe the Quinyon Mitchell and Sauce Gardner.
Oh my God, that would be ridiculous.
How about that one? But
oh my God,
in Howie we trust.
As
now in Kevin Patullo we trust for now.
For now,
and then we'll crush them, and then we'll probably kiss and make up, and hopefully the road to the repeat ends around this time next year with a back-to-back Super Bowl championship Philadelphia Eagles franchise. Until then, he's Peter Young. I'm Rob Brinkman. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.